Hey everyone, thanks for joining February's Wednesday webinar, the new FAFSA, What We've Learned and Next Steps. It's been a little over a month since the FAFSA launched, so we wanted to give you an update of what we're seeing on the road. So we're going to cover, where's the Better FAFSA at right now? What are some of the known issues we're seeing with resolutions? And we've got some steps we really want to make sure you all are seeing that students are bumping up against, and we want to make sure you're on the lookout for it. We'll talk next up, and of course, we've always got resources for you. So let's dive right in. All right. On January 30th, the Federal Student Aid, and I'm going to refer to them as FSA as we go along, Federal Student Aid put out an electronic announcement to give us a new timeline, let us know what's happening kind of behind the scenes. So first up, 3.1 million FAFSAs were filed in the first month, and that number is down a little bit for what we would normally see, but not unexpected given the late delay, the late launch of it. So unexpected, but it is working for people. And I don't know if you are seeing this too, Michelle, but I'm getting calls from people saying I finished it and I think it was too easy. I did something wrong. I think once all the bumps are smoothed out, this is going to be a better FAFSA. It's going to be smoother. It is a lot easier. And a lot of people are getting it through no issues. But we are going to talk about the issues that people are having that we're seeing. So just an update to the timeline. Previously, FAFSAs were going to be processed at the end of January, but then behind the scenes, some of those supporting tables they're used to calculate the SAI, the Student Aid Index, they weren't originally out there, and it wasn't adjusted for inflation. So they're fixing that right now. Good news and bad news. That fix is good news. Let's start there. That's going to make the SAIs the students are receiving, their estimated SAIs, maybe they're going to go down and more students are going to be eligible for more need-based aid. So good news. But the bad news is that this delay is going to cause a delay so that the FAFSA isn't going to be processed until mid-March. And what that means is that students won't be able to get in and see their FAFSA submission summary, the FSS. They won't be able to make corrections. They won't be able to go in and add schools until mid-March when those FAFSAs get processed. That also means that schools aren't going to be receiving FAFSAs until then. So keep in mind the schools have to get the FAFSAs processed, do testing and things like that. So it does take schools some time to catch up to that. So we don't expect aid offers to go out until I would say April or later. So just be patient with that. I will say that some schools that are that use the CSS profile, they may have already sent out aid offers. Keep in mind that those aid offers might change because of the change in the tables. But also that some schools are pushing out deadlines. So it's, they're giving students a little bit more time to make their decisions because they haven't received an aid offer. So that's kind of where we stand right now. The feds did let us know that schools are going to get test files this week, fingers crossed. So I think that's going to help schools get a little bit more prepared for when that big bulk FAFSA load comes. Okay, so let's talk about some issues that folks are seeing. And I like to call this our troubleshooting episode. These are things that we're seeing and ways that you can help students get through this. So let's start at the very beginning part of the process. Students, parents, spouses of students, these are contributors who may need to create an FSA ID. And an FSA ID is it's a username and password that we need to get into the FAFSA. It's something we also use to take out student loans. That's how we sign the loan application. When you go to set up the FSA ID, sometimes folks are getting to the very end of the application and they're getting this error message that says unknown error has occurred. 9 times out of 10, this is happening because the application timed out. You only have so long to create that FSA ID, and then it's going to time out. Now, this is often where I get the eye roll and people are like, oh, I'm going to do this all over again. Good news is you already have all the information set up. You know what your username and password are going to be. You know what your challenge questions are going to be. It's going to take you 2 minutes to get this done. But go ahead, restart it, Go at a good clip. Again, please be very careful with your information, but just make sure you realize that that's going to time out if you wait too long. Sometimes, as we see error message within the FAFSA, if you just keep hitting continue, sometimes it clears that error. I don't know what the error is, but I've been able to push through sometimes, so give that a try. Or if nothing else works, I always tell folks to try either a different web browser or a different device. I'm seeing the FAFSA websites work really well with cell phones versus some laptops. So I always tell people, let's try your phone instead. Okay, so a lot of what I'm going to talk about, a lot of issues that happen go all the way back to the setup of that FSA ID. So when people have issues, I'm often saying, let's go back and look at your profile, see what's going on as a first step. So I have the student, the parent, log on to studentaid.gov if they can. Once we get in, there is a little down arrow next to their name, and that's where we can see the little link to settings. Settings is where your profile lives, okay? And if you go to the personal information section of this, you can see the legal name, the date of birth, and the social security number. Now, the social security number is going to be masked. If it's matched with social security, and that's where you're going to see this little status, that's the first thing I look for. That means all the data you put into this FSA ID behind the scenes, that went to Social Security, and they check to make sure everything matches, right? Your legal name, your date of birth, your social security number, everything matched. This is where I stop first when people tell me they have issues. I need to see that match status. Now, if it says pending, they just set the FSA ID up and it's maybe not, that match hasn't had time to happen, so it's not maybe ready to use yet. Or if it's not matched, some data in here is wrong. Okay, so if you look at this and you're like, oh, my legal name has changed because I changed my name, I can change that information, save it, and that match happens again. A lot of times it's social security numbers that are wrong. So I usually have people, if everything looks right, wipe out the social security number and resubmit it and go back in a couple days and take a look at that. So this is a very good place to start. I'm seeing a lot of people can't set up an FSA ID and they're getting an error message that their social security number is already in use. And there's a lot happening on the screen, so stay with me. When this happens, this could happen for a few different reasons. So let's start with my little orange one button. I have people go to studentaid.gov. Let's click on login. And this could happen because somebody set up an FSA ID in the past and they just don't remember they did it. Or it could be that when somebody else was creating an FSA ID, they listed your social security number, right? And that happens. And maybe it hasn't been fixed on their end yet. They haven't gone back and changed the social. So that puts a hold on that social security number and somebody can't create an ID yet. Okay. So this is how I troubleshoot when I see this issue. Go to studentaid.gov, click login, and you have two options here where that's my first red arrow there on the upper left-hand side. You can choose forgot username or forgot password. I usually start with forgot password because it will ask for an email address or a cell phone number. And I find people's cell phone numbers don't often change as much as emails do. So I have them try to recover it that way. A lot of times, if there's already something set up in the system, you can get texted or emailed a code and reset your password. If that's the case, we know that the cell phone or the email address that's in their system, that's your username. So now you've got your username and a new password. If that's not working, let's go to forgot username. And this gives you under, see the yellow, the orange 2, that gives us some options here. We can use the Authenticator app to retrieve the username. We can get texted or emailed a secure code, or we can answer challenge questions, which I find very challenging. So that doesn't always work for me. It's my last ditch effort. But I did want to point out new is that you can click on recover my account with a photo ID. Now this I saw in action a couple weeks ago. It was slick, guys. We got this all straightened out in no time at all. This gives you a few steps where you can submit your information, and then you get texted a link where you can upload your documents like a driver's license or a passport, and then you can receive an email with a password link to reset. So this is a way to recover. That's a new way to get that username and password. But if none of this is working, we need to have you call Federal Student Aid on their hotline. Now, I'm hearing, and I've tried this myself, that they're not even answering the phone. But I have found that if you call early in the morning before the West Coast wakes up, and when you get that recording saying what do you need help with, if you just say the word agent, you then get put into you're on hold with someone. And the other day I got in within 5 minutes. If the person you are talking to is not getting you where you need to be, we're told that you need to ask for a tier 2 specialist. I've had no issues yet being able to talk to someone. Once I did get somebody, if I could, I've had no issues so far. Okay, so new this year, parents without a social security number can create a federal student aid ID. In the past, we couldn't do that. This isn't working right now. So just so you know, what you're seeing here is a screenshot. I'm going to show you in the next screen of Federal Student Aid website. They have a list of known issues with a workaround, if there is one. Some things like this issue has no workaround yet. This has not been fixed yet. So hold tight on that. I got a few suggestions for students who are in the situation where their parents can't create their FSA ID yet because this process isn't working. If the student doesn't have a pressing deadline, they may want to wait until this fix happens so that they'll have a smooth FAFSA process, right? But if there is a deadline that's coming up, students can do a paper form and mail it in. Not recommended. I don't love doing this. I really prefer the online process when it does get work, and it will get fixed. Federal Student Aid indicated they won't process paper or FAFSAs until after the online applications are processed. So it's going to be a longer wait. Sometimes students have started the process and then they realized that the parent can't finish their part. I just want to let people know that if one person starts the FAFSA, remember this is a roles-based form. If a dependent student starts the FAFSA and the other person, their parent, doesn't finish it within 45 days, if there's no action, all that data has been deleted. Now, this isn't a big deal. I think it's just going to cause some confusion for the student. So I just want folks to know that when we do start a FAFSA, and we're waiting, we have 45 days, the student can go back in, log in, check the status. That should reset the clock. But keep in mind for people who, students who have started the FAFSA and they've sent their parent an invitation, that parent is going to get a reminder every 7 days, hey, go in and finish this, go in and finish this. But after 45 days, this will be deleted.
Hey,
Okay.
Nikki, can I jump in real quick? I had a question pertaining to that that came in that I do not know the answer to. So someone posed, I have heard information that the 45-day clock has not started yet. Have you heard if this information is accurate or not?
I have not heard that. But you know what? I will look into that and I will send that in the follow-up email. Can you make a note of that, Michelle? And we'll follow up on that. Thanks for that. This is what I love about this community is we're all getting little bits and pieces from each other. That's great. Okay. All right. So FSA Partners website has a list of known issues that has what's happening, what folks are seeing, and there's also either a workaround or that they don't have a workaround yet. Just keep in mind that these are being updated regularly. As we at FAME see a lot of repeat issues, we submit issues to Federal Student Aid. So while you get issues, please let us know. We can submit them for you. But you can go to the Federal Student Aid website and see what issues, if something is happening that you need help with, that's there too. We have FSA ID worksheets we like to use with students when they set up their usernames and passwords. We have one for student, we have one for parents. We did create FSAID worksheet for people who don't have a social security number, so they can see the steps to do this and have a place to document their information. And that website is listed down below. Okay, totally random. Every time we log in to studentaid.gov, we get an email that says your FSAID information was changed. Nope, nothing has changed, didn't change anything. I just logged in and I get this email. So it didn't hurt anything. It's not causing any problems. Just want to let you know that that's happening. Okay, so the FAFSA is a roles-based form. Okay, and what that means is the student has their section. If parent information is needed, the parent has their section. If the student is married, maybe the spouse has to do a section. So these folks are all known as contributors. Okay. But who should start the FAFSA? Like what should the flow be? And there's pros and cons to both. So this is what I'm seeing. So let's say if the student starts first, what's really helpful is the student sees a parent wizard that's going to ask a series of questions that will ask, like if parents don't live in the same household, it will ask the series of questions to see which parent to list. That gives them more information about who should be on their FAFSA. And then they can see who's going to be invited to do their part. Downside to this, a lot of students don't know parents' date of birth, social security numbers, or their email addresses. And this is where we, often see students put the FAFSA on pause and they forget to do it, or there's another issue I'll show you that's coming up. But I also did want to say Federal Student Aid recommends that the student starts the FAFSA first. This is the way the flow was designed. So if that makes sense, it makes sense. I also see some pros to the parents starting this. So if the parent has low or no income, that's going to make no asset questions show up for either the student or parent. So it's designed to be a shorter, faster process. So if the parent starts and that's their income situation, it's going to be an easier process. Another pro to this is that the parent's going to be able to see that no income information actually gets put, it's not visible. So when you pull in the income data, some parents are reluctant to do the FAFSA because they don't want their income shared. When they do this, they can actually see that there's no income that shows up on the FAFSA, so they may be more apt to do it. Another pro is that parents generally know their students' social security numbers, legal names, and date of birth. So sometimes that invitation process goes a little bit easier. And this happened the other day, it was a light bulb moment that if parents have multiple children in college and they're going to be doing multiple FAFSAs, I think it's easier for the students to start the FAFSA and then invite the parent, because then when the parent logs in, they can see their parts in multiple steps. So that's my opinion for what it's worth. Okay, so I said it's a roles-based form and that one person started and then they have to invite the other person if other contributors are needed. So for this situation, this is something I really want to draw attention to that I think will solve some issues going forward. Let's say the student starts the FAFSA and they have to invite parents to fill out the section. Say they have two parents in the household and they want to invite their parents to do this. If you read from the top, and this is where I say just take your time and read the whole question first. This is what we always want people to do. You can see on my top arrow that in the screen that the student saw before, they went through that parent wizard, and it looks like both parents need to have information on the FAFSA, but right now you only need to invite one parent. So let me explain that. If parents live together in the household and they file a joint tax return, only one parent needs to fill out the parent portion of the FAFSA. And that's tied to the FSAID, okay? So if they file a joint tax return, one parent needs to create a username and password so that when they do their part of the FAFSA, they can give the IRS permission to put the income information in the FAFSA. That's why this is happening. But students see two boxes and automatically, I'm just going to go fill out both boxes and put both my parents' information in there. But wait, there's more. If you read a little bit further down, it says, we highly recommend you only complete the parent who will fill out this form box, okay? So that's my left-hand arrow that says, please only list information about the parent that's gonna be doing the FAFSA. And what this means is invite the parent who's created the FSA ID. The other day I was at a FAFSA lab where more than one student listed the parent that didn't have an ID. So we had to go back and change it. So if we just start here and we know that this is going to be sent to the parent that needs to be able to log in. So it's good to invite that parent that's already created their FSA ID. And then if you see on the right hand lower blue, it says, do not fill this section out unless otherwise instructed. So many times we need to leave this block blank, okay? This would be if two parents are in the household and they file taxes separately, we would need an invitation sent to both those parents. Any questions on that, Michelle? If they do, feel free to jump in.
I have a couple of previous questions, if you had time to answer them now, if you wanted to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so we had one question from an individual asking if there's an approximate amount of time that it takes for the FSA ID form to time out, if you know. Have you noticed any amount of like time there?
I don't, but I can tell you it's long enough for someone to stop and have a conversation. That's usually what happens. I mean, I want to say 10 minutes, maybe. I would just say
Great.
start the form, don't stray, continue.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that, Nikki. That's very helpful. And then we had one more question asking if you've had luck or you could speak to the recovery of the process with the photo ID. This individual had tried it with a student, but apparently the text message never came through when they were attempting to recover.
Funny story, that happened to me too. I wanted to try the process, so I tried to recover my password and I ended up locking myself out. I ended up having to call Federal Student Aid. So I'm going to say so far I'm at 50-50. I've seen it work and I've seen it not work. So what I would say is if it's not working anyway and you need to recover it, I would go for that option because you're stuck in the, you know, you're dead in the water anyway. Why not go for it? So I have seen it work and I've seen it not work. Hopefully that's helpful.
Yes, thank you, Nikki. I appreciate it.
Okay. Okay, so let's talk about that invitation. So we're gonna, for instance, we're gonna say the student started the FAFSA, they've invited their parent and no email came, right? A lot of times those emails goes to spam, junk mail. So look for them there. The email has a link that says, hey, so-and-so has invited you to complete the rest of the FAFSA. If we don't get the email, no worries. We don't necessarily need it. The other person that was invited can log on to studentaid.gov, and a lot of times right on the dashboard when we log in, you will see you were invited to complete the rest of the FAFSA. If we don't see it there, we can see on that left-hand red arrow, My Activity. When you click on My Activity, that's where that invitation should live. But if we go here and we don't see that there's any invitation and we know someone was invited and that I should have some information, I should have a link here to go finish the FAFSA. Something is wrong with the invitation that was sent. So let's take a look at that. The invitation on the FAFSA must exactly match the settings that is in the FSA ID profile. So remember when I started this, I said a lot of the issues we're seeing go back to that profile. So if I go back and I log in to studentaid.gov and I click on that little tiny down arrow next to my name and I click on settings under personal information, this is what I'm looking for. This exact data needs to be in the invitation, okay? So if I have somebody look side by side, I usually say, grab your phone, log in, let's look side by side and see if that data matches. You can see that my student used my name Nikki instead of my legal name Nicole. If those two data points don't match, nothing's going to happen. So we can delete the name and then re-add it resend the invitation, and that invitation happens immediately. That person should then be able to go right to my activity and see their invitation. If that is not the issue, everything matches and it should be working. I've seen, I can't tell you how many times people put an extra space after their name or before their name in the invitation. Delete that space and that should clear up the issue and they should be able to send that invitation. Okay, so let's say my student invited my husband and he doesn't have an FSA ID set up. I did, right? So we need to go in and we need to change that invitation. We need to change the contributor information. So let's say my student invited my husband, we need to switch it to me. So the student logs in, actually should be studentaid.gov. They go to their activity, they'll see that link to the FAFSA and we can plug in there. If we go, see where my little orange 2 is, if we look at actions, you can click on edit contributor information after clicking on that, okay? And that's gonna give us a place where we can update who we want the invitation to be sent to. So that can be changed there. And again, that invitation is gonna happen automatically, real quick. Okay, so here's some other scenarios where the invitation doesn't work. So say the student starts a FAFSA, but they don't get beyond that invitation. So a lot of times students will stop there and they'll wait until they can get their parent's social security number, for example. Well, if the student starts the FAFSA and then the parent goes in and they try to invite the student, they get an error message. So there's a couple different fixes for this. Either the student can go back in, pick up where they left off and send the invitation, or, and this is a fix for a lot of stuff, we can go under actions and we can delete the FAFSA form. So if this FAFSA has not been submitted, we do have the option to delete the form. And sometimes I'm working with students where we feel like everything's jacked up. Let's delete it and start over. So as long as it hasn't been submitted, we can still do this. Okay, another scenario. The parent starts the FAFSA for a student who's independent on age. This happened to me and I was like stumped. The parent's logging in and they're seeing this message, you are not authorized to act on behalf of the student. Well, I didn't realize it was that the student was 24 and no more parent information was needed at that point. So I couldn't figure it out for the longest time. The solution to this is that the student just logs in and completes their FAFSA. No parent information is needed. So sometimes when we do see that you're unauthorized, it's because parent information isn't needed. Okay, so here's some places that I really want to make sure that people take their time and read those questions because this can really affect the FAFSA dramatically. So students can see a couple of these screens that will change their dependency status incorrectly, okay? So if we look at the box on the left, some students are seeing, do unusual circumstances prevent the student from contacting parents? I've had a student say, well, I can't reach my parents right now, they're at work, so I'm going to click yes to this and submit. When we do that, this makes the student provisionally independent, meaning no parent information is needed. So that student entered it incorrectly. If we read a little bit further, that this would be for situations where the student can't contact the parent because it's an abusive household, or the parent has abandoned them, or they're a victim of human trafficking, or their parents incarcerated. There's a lot of reasons here why we would select yes, but for many students, that answer is going to be no. On the right-hand side, there's this, do you want to apply for a direct unsubsidized loan only? A lot of students see this, are you applying for aid? And they click yes. But if we read a little bit further, it says, are the students unwilling to provide information, but the student doesn't have an unusual circumstance that prevents them from contacting their parents? If we select yes to this, no parent information is going to be asked for on the FAFSA. The student is only going to be eligible for a loan when in fact they might get more aid if they answered it correctly. So just something to be really careful of. Okay, so this is another one I really want to make sure people look at carefully when they're going through the FAFSA. is household size, family size. So the FAFSA is supposed to be using the tax return to try and intuit how many people are in your household, right? And I find many times this is not right. So this defaults to know if what is the family size different for the number of individuals you claimed on your tax return. I want everyone to click yes to this answer because that allows us to look and see what the FAFSA thinks is your family size. Okay, 9 times out of 10, I'm seeing that this number is wrong. So I want you to see what the FAFSA thinks your family size is. And if it's wrong, we can add numbers to that little block below and update the family size. This is a really big deal. This really dramatically affects the student aid index. So I want to make sure everybody looks at that before submitting. If someone has submitted their FAFSA and they're not sure what they did here, after the FAFSAs are processed in mid-March, we can go back, look at that family size, and if it's wrong, we can fix it then. Okay, so some folks are having to manually enter their income information. So new this year, the IRS will just put the income information into the FAFSA for you. But some people do have to manually enter their income information. If this does happen, there's a link at the top where we can click. It will show you the tax return, what a sample tax return looks like. And it'll show you exactly the line items to look for on that tax return. So that's super handy. But here's some reasons why this might happen. If someone's marital status today is different from their tax filing status in 2022, we're going to have to manually enter that person's income. Okay. And this is a kind of a weird process, but like, for instance, a parent was married in 2022 and now they are divorced, separated, or maybe their spouse has passed. We need to take that combined tax return and we need to tease out the information for just that contributor. And this doesn't feel comfortable for a lot of people. I'm just saying, best guess, we're going to try to figure out if you filed a tax return today with that same information, what that would look like. So that's how we're going to enter that information. It could be that somebody's FSA ID was just created and maybe that time for that match with Social Security hasn't happened yet. If that's the case, let's exit the FAFSA. It's going to save your information. When you enter back in a few days, it'll pick you right back up where you left off. And maybe you won't have to manually enter the information. There's other reasons why the IRS won't release data, and there's no known reason the IRS doesn't say why this is. But I just want folks to know that we're going to manually enter that income information. I think for a lot of these cases, these are the folks that will be selected for verification. And verification is not a big deal. It doesn't mean you did anything wrong necessarily. It just means that the college is required to get a copy of your tax return, maybe some other documents, and they need to check your FAFSA and see if you entered it correctly. Again, if you are hand entering some of this stuff, you're doing your best job. If you didn't do it accurately, the school will just fix it for you. So don't panic when you see this. Just know this might be a possibility. How are we doing, Michelle? Any questions?
Yes, you paused at just the perfect time, Nikki. So there is one question that I'm not sure the answer to. So it's in regards to deleting the FAFSA form. So the question is, if the student has already sent the invite to the parents, is it at that point too late for them to delete the FAFSA form? So, you know, after the student had signed and submitted their section, is that still a possibility?
No, actually, I think that's really the only time you can do it. So if they've sent the invitation, I think that's fine. I think we still can delete that whole FAFSA. Okay.
Okay.
I think the only time we can't delete the FAFSA is once both people have submitted it. And it's, there's, when you get back, if you log back into the FAFSA, I'll show you what that screenshot looks like in a little bit, but there's no other option to do that. So up until that FAFSA gets submitted by all parties, we can delete it.
Okay, great. That's a perfect answer. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I get to have some tea. Okay, so let's say the student got through the FAFSA, they get to this screen. This screen is really just, you can pop into these sections. If you're unsure how you answered something, you can change it there. But I often have people get to the end and they try to click section 5 where it's unchecked and they want to sign here, but they don't realize they have to keep scrolling. And when we keep scrolling, we can see, oh, that parent was invited. They haven't done their part yet. It's a visual indicator that the FAFSA isn't quite done yet until that other contributor puts their stuff in. But then we have to hit continue before we can see the sign and submit section. Okay, so this is that screen I was telling you about, Michelle. When the FAFSA is submitted by all parties, if you log back in, this is what you'll see. And it's not really giving you a lot of information, okay? It's just that your form was submitted. This is a holding pattern we're in right now until the FAFSA gets processed. But if you look that it's on step 2, it'll say, the first half of March, you'll be able to have more information. That's when students are going to be emailed that they can log back in and make corrections, add schools, see their FAFSA data, all that. That's when FAFSAs will be processed. But the best we can do for right now, I've got students who they're applying for scholarships. They're applying for student support services, and they need proof that their FAFSA was submitted and they need the results of that FAFSA. Well, when the FAFSA is submitted, the student gets an email and the subject line is, "We've received your FAFSA form." This will give an estimated student aid index, which, keep in mind, this number may change because of the tables behind the scenes being updated. But this also does tell you estimated Pell Grant eligibility in the very bottom. So it gives students an idea of federal aid they might be eligible for. This is not all the aid the student may get. The feds only know about their money, right? So you might have some indicator here. A lot of scholarship organizations, including like the Worthington, will take this as proof the FAFSA was done and what your FAFSA results are right now. So I tell students, hang on to this email. This is gold. This is what we're going to use for right now. Somebody might get an email. I got one this morning that we've received your FAFSA form, but we can't calculate the SAI. And if you scroll down, it gives you why we can't calculate it and what the resolution is. We are seeing that some people are signing the FAFSA, like parents, and the signature is disappearing. I don't know why this is happening. We've submitted this. I believe the feds know about it and they're working on this, but for what we know right now, we have to wait until the FAFSA gets processed before they can log in and re-sign. Until then, we're kind of just in a holding pattern. But I did want to point next to my little orange arrow that I don't love the way this is worded. It says based on eligibility criteria, you don't appear to be eligible for a federal Pell Grant. This is telling students I'm not eligible for a Pell Grant. Maybe I'm not eligible for aid at all. And that's not the case. It's just that they can't figure out if they're eligible for a Pell Grant until everything is signed. So don't love the way this is worded, but this is what we're looking at. Okay, so I'm going to finish up here with some resources. I will say that on the studentaid.gov Help Center site, you can call that number. Again, I'm not having much luck. I call in the morning. I say agent when I get that automated message. And a lot of times I've been able to get through. I will also say there is a live chat, and this has worked for me when I'm working with someone who doesn't really feel comfortable calling federal student aid because maybe a language issue, and I'm working with them. Federal student aid really wants to keep information of individuals private, right? And they don't like talking to someone else like me. Sometimes live chat has been helpful and more faster than waiting on hold. So that's another option to be able to reach someone. Want to let you know, of course, FAME is here for Mainers, so give us a call. We also do have FAFSA help sessions coming up. We've got one tomorrow. We have virtual sessions where people who register get a Zoom link. They join us. We do a quick demo of the FAFSA. We show a couple of those places to look for those answers. And then we send people to breakout rooms where Michelle and I are going to pop into those rooms and answer questions for folks. A lot of information online. We've got our get ready to file checklist. We've got a whole section on filing the FAFSA. We also have FAQs there. And if you're looking for the latest and greatest, join our Facebook group, Paying for College for Me, because as we hear updates that are happening, we post them in our Facebook group. We also have updates that we send out to our partners. Go to famemaine.com/join to get those. And I bring this FAFSA tips to any of the FAFSA help sessions I do to give to people who maybe I couldn't help them do the FAFSA at the time, and I just want to make sure I put something in their hands. That's a great resource. The next webinar in March, I know that we've heard a lot about FAFSA, but clearly with the number of people are here today, you want to know more. We hope by March 13th, we've seen some process FAFSAs. We're going to tell you what to look for and the next steps at that point. So make sure you watch out for that. Okay, Michelle, any questions?
So I do have one more question for you right now, Nikki. So an individual asked, can the live chat feature work to get a case number for parents without an SSN to start the proof of identity process?
I've not seen that happen. I would like anyone else who's seen this happen, please put it in the chat or the Q&A. I have not seen that happen.
Mhm.
Sorry.
No worries. Well, that was the last question that we had. So unless anybody else wants to chime in with some last minute things, that's it for questions.
No, Michelle, that is a really super question now that I think about it. I'll put that in the follow-up email.
Sure.